live. Please join me as we have some wonderful guests today. We have the She Squatchers all the way from Minnesota. So please introduce you guys yourselves and how you guys got started in your very first encounter that you knew something was up in the woods.
Hey, I'm Jen Cruz.
Oh, I'm Jenna Grover.
I'm Tammy Trickle.
And we're the She Squatchers. So we started the team. I started the team in 2015 after I did an interview on my radio show with Lauren Coleman, the cryptozoologist everybody sees all over TV. He's got the International Cryptozoology Museum in Maine. And so I had scored this awesome interview with him. And at the time I was doing paranormal radio. I didn't know anything about Bigfoot really. But I can recognize a good interview opportunity when I see one. So when he agreed to have my sit down in-person interview, I was truly excited. And during that time, at that time I'd maybe seen, less than 5 episodes of Finding Bigfoot on TV. I mean, this is literally, I knew nothing.
Right, not much at all.
Right. So I had this interview with him, and he was so informative, and his enthusiasm and passion for the topic of Bigfoot was just catchy. His scientific explanations of things were shocking to me, actually, and very intriguing. So during that interview, he had an idea that he shared with me, and he thought the recipe for success in having interactions with Bigfoot would be to send women into the woods without men, dogs, or guns. And he thought that would be the meal ticket for that, right? And he had lots of reasons for that. He said that women naturally have a great rapport with the great apes, listing examples such as Jane Goodall and her work with the chimpanzees.
Exactly.
And he felt that men have a pheromone that the great apes just don't like, and he felt that might also extend to Bigfoot. He wasn't sure, but he thought it could. And then he said that the sightings that people have near roadways typically aren't family units of Bigfoots, not moms, dads, and kids aren't out for a stroll by the road. What normally people are seeing are younger male Bigfoot out on their own near the roads, and they're probably doing the things they're not supposed to be doing out there. And he felt that these younger male Bigfoot would be naturally a little more inclined to get a little closer to some ladies out in the woods by themselves if they didn't have anything scary with them like men, dogs, or guns. So that's why he thought that women should try this out. And in the moment, I jokingly said, "Hey there, big boy, pick me, I'll do that." And, I was just joking, actually. But by the end of the interview, I actually seriously volunteered to give it a try. And, I grew up in the woods of Minnesota. I'm part Native American. I spent most of my childhood in the woods by myself with my mother, but a lot of times by myself.
Same here. Yeah.
And I thought, well, I love being in the woods. Why not go out and try it? What's the worst thing that could happen? I seriously didn't believe in Bigfoot, but I thought, I hadn't really given it too much thought before anyway. I'd never considered, is Bigfoot real, prior to that interview. So I was open-minded and willing to go check it out. And so that's how She Squatchers began. I found some people to go out with me. And I was actually embarrassed. I was embarrassed to tell anybody that I was really close to that I was going to go looking for Bigfoot. So, Jenna was one of my very good friends. I didn't even tell her. Yeah. I didn't even tell her that I was going.
I understand that, yeah. People make fun of you. I've been there, done that.
Right. So we went out to a location in Minnesota where there had been a recent sighting. And it actually had brought the Finding Bigfoot team up here. What had happened was there was a young Native man out in his canoe fishing on a place called 6 Mile Lake in northern Minnesota. It's kind of by Bena, Minnesota. And he had been out there fishing in his canoe, and it was getting dark, so he decided to come in and call it a night. And as he approached the shore, there was a large Bigfoot male standing in the shore, in the shallows of the water, maybe up to his knees, a little higher. And he was aggressively moving towards the canoe as he approached the shore. And I think that from how he described this, I think that he probably wanted him to give him his fish. So
Right.
that was, he kept, like, he stayed away from the shore and kind of tried to move along to and the Bigfoot was coming along the shore with him. So this went on for a couple hours until someone in his family realized he didn't come back from fishing. So they drove out there to see if something had happened to him. And they approached where he normally would put his canoe at. And they started honking the horn and flashing their lights. And that's when the Bigfoot then turned and ran into the woods. And he remembered, kind of where that happened. So he went back the next day to that location and he found the footprints that were there in the mud. So that was pretty neat. And that's what brought Finding Bigfoot up here. Of course, when we went there, they don't tell you, oh, here's the GPS coordinates to where that happened. So we knew it was on the lake. We knew it was supposed to be at this public boat launch, but the only public boat launch that was listed for the lake was on the other side of the lake from where it actually happened. It was, and we found out like weeks later exactly where that private public boat launch is that only the local native people knew about. And that's where they would launch their canoes from. But we went there, and I should tell you that all of us are psychic mediums. And so my side idea on top of what Lauren's idea was, could we use our extra senses to find Bigfoot faster or easier? Can we narrow down just the hiking through the woods looking for something random? Can we narrow this down to an actual location? And I had been doing geographic remote viewing for paranormal teams for a long time. And looking at locations that they were going to go investigate and telling them what I was seeing happening there. And so I'd also been using that for missing persons cases and helping to find missing people. So I thought, can we use that to locate where Bigfoot might be before we actually go there? Can we use our senses in any way, shape, or form to narrow this down? And so that was
even a little extra.
Yeah, that was our side experiment. And so that first night, that first day, actually, we went out during the day looking at this location at 6 Mile Lake. And it's a really long, skinny lake. And on one side, there's houses and cabins and docks. And on the other side, there's nothing except dense woods and not even right up against the lake. But there is a road called Reservation Highway 20, which should never fool you because it's actually just a one-car road that looks kind of like a minimum maintenance road. And if you meet another car on this road, good luck, because one of you is going to have to back up because you can't pass each other. So I thought, the public boat launch that's listed is on the side where all the cabins and houses are. But I didn't think that made any sense to be where Bigfoot was. So I wanted to check out the side where there were no homes or anything. So we went out on that side, and we were stopping at locations that I thought were interesting. And there was one particular location where I felt this energy sensation just run through my body. It was a very physical feeling of something I'd never felt before. So I was looking around this location, and I didn't see anything that would make me think that Bigfoot was here, but I marked the GPS coordinates as this is someplace I want to check out after dark tonight. And we just kept looking at the top of the lake where there's like this little tiny bridge that goes across this little waterway that goes into a wetland. And we were walking on this gravel road that goes across this bridge. And something just told me to turn around and look back. And so I turn around and look back, and all of a sudden I see this set of footprints in the gravel. And it was very, very difficult to see. We didn't see it coming one way, but you saw it going the other way. I think it was the shadows playing. And it was quite a long trackway of footprints. They were very large, nothing that you could cast, but we could definitely see them. And they weren't human footprints. They were barefoot footprints that were very, very large. And we didn't have anything with us to we didn't even have a tape measure. We didn't have casting material. This was our first time. We didn't expect to find anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. You know, you're not prepared. You're not in the game.
Right.
So you guys are having fun and stuff, actually. So I mean,
Yeah.
so you find that what's going through all you guys' heads? You know?
Well, for me, I thought, well,
it's like, no.
Well, this was quite shocking to me, and I'm quite tall. I'm 5'10", and so being the tallest one on the team, I decided I'm gonna run in the leap next to these footprints and see if I can match the stride. And I couldn't even come close. Couldn't even come close to it. So that was interesting. So we marked that location as someplace that we'd want to come back to that night. So we had different locations that we wanted to check out after the sun went down. So we went, had supper, came back after the sun went down. And the place where I had that weird energy feeling, that was the most excited place I was ready to return to, because that to me was very overwhelming. And I knew that there was something to that. I just didn't know what it was. So I wanted to go back there. The other people that were with me were like, they didn't quite understand this. Oh, I had a feeling. So
right.
We go back there, and it is so dark. It is so dark we can't see anything. And we parked the car middle of the road because that's the only place to put it. And one of the girls that was with me that night had borrowed a thermal camera. It was a cheap, less than $200 FLIR camera, that one of the ones that you pull the trigger and it's supposed to take a picture. And she hands it to me. She hands it to me as we get out of the car, and she went to the back hatch to get her gear. And the people that were with me that night, they were all paranormal investigators. They all had their nighttime gear to do haunting investigations, but they'd never taken this to the woods before. Okay. So this was all new to us. And so she hands me this thermal camera, and I'm excited to play with it. So I'm pointing it at the woods, and I'm like seeing if there's anything out there, any bunnies or whatever. And, I'm scanning the woods, and I get it pointed out in front of the car, and all of a sudden there's somebody standing there that I'm seeing on the thermal. There's somebody standing there. It looks like a person, head, arms, legs, body,
you can see that line.
Right. I assumed it was one of my teammates that was with me. And so I said, who's out in front of the car? And nobody answered. And I said, hey, who's out in front of the car? And nobody answered me again. And I kept asking that with a little more anxiety in my voice every time I said it. And then Marlo heard that it was something going on. So she comes running up to the front. Everybody had been at the back of the truck getting their gear out the back hatch. And so she comes running up to see what's going on. She looks at the screen, and she sees what I'm seeing on there. There's somebody standing there. And so she looks up to look at it with her eyes. And she says, oh my gosh, I just saw eyes. And so I look up to see, can I see eyes? And I didn't see eyes, but then I couldn't find it again on the thermal. It was a tiny little screen. And I couldn't find anything again. And so it was just gone. And it had been standing on the road, just to the left, of the road by the wood line, and maybe about 50 feet in front of the car. And so in hindsight, I didn't realize this that night or even the next day or weeks later. In hindsight, for real, I realized what I saw on the thermal was not wearing clothes. Because when you look through a thermal camera, and the setting that it was on was the one where body temperature shows up as red and yellow. Okay. So when you look at that, when somebody's wearing clothes, they don't come up as hot where their clothes are. They come up hot where their skin is showing, but where their clothes are, it's not as a hot color.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was standing there?
Yeah, it's mismatched. They're different colors.
You can definitely see the clothes when you look at somebody on one of those. What was standing there was not wearing clothes. It was not wearing clothes at all. And so that was something that I realized in hindsight. So that was quite interesting. But after that happened, and I couldn't find it again on the thermal, then we decided we were going to walk that way into the woods, off to the left. And as a few of us had taken a few steps towards going into the woods that way, we heard something coming down through the branches. And something dropped in front of us and bounced a few feet in front of us. And I looked at it, and I was like, is that a rock? And then you hear another one coming through the branches from the trees above us, and another one bounces right next to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And Marlo says, I think that is a rock. And then another one came. So that they were tossing little rocks about that big, 50-cent piece to a silver dollar size, were being lobbed at us and like bouncing 3-4 feet in front of us. And again, I didn't know much about Bigfoot. So I didn't know that they were known to throw rocks at people. Didn't know that. I was just flabbergasted that something was throwing rocks at us. And growing up in the woods in Minnesota.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Right.
So
what do you have to register to, right? Animals. But, what other animal out there is throwing rocks?
Right. Then nobody does. Nothing does that. So I was really shocked, and I opened my awareness, like, what does this mean? And I felt like, don't walk this way. So we backed up, and then it stopped. So then another one of the girls decided, hey, let's do one of those Bigfoot whoops they do on Finding Bigfoot. I said, okay.
Yeah, why not?
Go for it. So she did. And then we stood there really quiet, waiting to hear if we heard anything. And instead of hearing a call back, we started hearing something walking towards us. And it was very large, bipedal, with 2 legs, crunching sticks as it was stomping towards us. And we hear where it's coming from. We're pointing all of our cameras at it. We've got night vision cameras. We've got that little thermal camera. Everybody's got cameras in their hands. And we're pointing it there, and we're not seeing anything. Now, granted, all these night vision cameras were good cameras, but they were made for inside houses, hunting, investigating night vision stuff. They're not really built to light up the whole woods. And so our ability to see into the woods was not, it didn't go very far. So we weren't seeing what was coming, and it was still coming. And all of a sudden, that sound seemed to multiply, and there was something coming at us from different directions now, same type of movement. And so we circled up back to back, facing out, looking to see, can we see anything? And we couldn't see anything. And the girls were quite scared. And one of them said, Jen, do your tobacco thing. Now, we were on in Ojibwe Chippewa reservation in northern Minnesota, and I am part Ojibwe, and I do speak some of the language. So I took tobacco. What she was saying was, do your native prayer. So I took the tobacco into my hand, and I started to speak out loud in Ojibwe, and I did a complete formal introduction with all of my spirit names that were given to me in ceremony. And as soon as I called out and I thanked the little people of the forest. And then as soon as I said Miigwech Kichisabe, which is thank you, Bigfoot, basically, everything just stopped. It just stopped. It didn't retreat, to come forward anymore. It just stopped. And we just stood there in silence. And I honestly didn't know what else to do. I was excited because there was a reaction to my prayer. And I was excited about this, but the other girls were mostly scared. And they're like, okay, well, let's go check out where we found those footprints earlier today. And I said, okay, yeah, let's do that. So we jumped in the car and we drove away.
Okay. Yeah.
But
that's a great reaction though. Yeah.
Yeah. They were, some of them had said at that point, they didn't really want to do this anymore. They were scared. Do that again. Yes. Paranormal stuff is okay. Yeah, they're like, this is way scarier than paranormal investigations. This is much more intense than I expected. They said maybe Bigfoot could just walk out in front of us in the car. That would be okay. So, it's been a challenge to get, because even the next day when I was like, we need to go back out there and look for the footprints in the woods where we were at, where we heard the movement coming at us, we need to go out there. And it was like pulling teeth to get anybody to go out there. They did not want to. And so,
but you got 2 teammates here.
Yes.
So you wrangled someone in. You suckered them in. Whatever.
Well, I was hooked at that point because this is like a huge adrenaline rush for me. I was excited. I wanted to do it more and more and more. And so I went home and I told Jenna, and she was kind of upset with me for not telling her in the first place. So she could have been there with me.
Now, let me just explain here. So just to cut in, sorry, Jen. So I'm sitting, Jen and I are talking. I was visiting her at her employment place of employment. And so we were just sitting there talking, and all of a sudden she got really quiet and she was like, Jenna. And I was like, yeah, she was acting kind of weird, but she was just, she started telling me about what she did that weekend. And I was like, oh, I want to be on the team. It sounded so much fun. I was so excited. I didn't know anything about Bigfoot either,
Right,
really, so when she told me that, I was like, holy buckets, this is crazy. Because at first my thought was, I'm doing this for the camaraderie. I had gone through some hard things in life, and I just needed to, I was really looking to see how far I could push my body, how far I could push my mind, how far I could, just enjoy time with other people and get out there. And boy, oh boy, it's been fabulous ever since. So that's how Jen actually, how I got started in it. Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Oh, no. And so then also I had invited Tammy to come on the team. It just didn't work out at that time. So she joined us later. So then we brought Tammy on. So now there's the three of us that are the main three, and we're, the others have kind of dropped away. And so we've been doing this ever since, and we're just having a blast.
Awesome. So how long have you guys been
Jenna
doing
and I are the fearless ones.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
We are.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and we're always talking about who's the more fearless one, Tammy or myself. And it's like, you know what? We are so darn cool. We're so fearless. Let's just take it for a 50-50, baby. So I think we can share that.
But then when you go out there, how's that still stand?
Pretty 50-50.
Oh,
I think all three of us are
yeah.
very much the same. I mean, we're good to go.
So have you
We're
guys
not
had
scared. We're
encounters
excited.
together?
Yes.
Yep. Tammy.
Well, why don't
You want
you
me to
explain
take
it?
this one?
Go
For it.
Okay.
Yeah, go take us into it.
Yeah, I'll do it. We were in Tennessee, and we went for a day jaunt with one of our fellow researchers, Matthew Delph from Micro. And we went back in the evening after we had eaten supper, and we had been remote viewing during supper, and Jen had looked at the map and everything and thought it would be a good area. And when we got up there, then she looked at the map again, and she's like, yeah, look, it looks like there's one like 30 feet over there. And so I got out of the car and I had the FLIR, and I looked, and sure enough, there was one sitting 30 feet away up against a tree. And I'm sitting there. It was my first time using this FLIR, so I was trying to find the record button, and it's so dark you couldn't see anything. So I'm messing with the buttons, and I'm watching them, and he's sitting there, and he's just leaning back, and he's scratching under his arm, and you can see the hair hanging down. And I'm like, girls, how do I turn this on? How do I turn this on? How do I make it record? And finally, we got it to record, and we got like 13 minutes of footage on the FLIR of him just digging in the ground or doing something with his hands, and it was amazing. We weren't scared. We didn't try to approach him any closer. We were respectful to him, and he let us get 13 minutes of footage. So it was awesome. We weren't scared. It was awesome. So exciting.
To be respectful and to remain calm. I've had a lot of close encounters actually, and you remain calm. It's not going to agitate them as much. It makes them more comfortable, and you're going to have more activity. So, what you have any more things happen at night, or?
We are really looking forward. We're really looking
next time?
forward. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say we're really looking forward to getting out this year and getting all three of us out there. Jen and I have had a lot of experiences just because we've been doing this for a little bit longer. And Tammy finally joined the team. So this year we're really going to focus on getting out there and having a good time. We're going to focus on some of the things that we didn't focus on last year. Tammy is really amazing with seeing auras. So we're hoping that that's going to be very helpful in looking for Bigfoot. having her really focus on those auras. You can hide in the woods, but you can't hide your aura. So that's one of the things we're really looking forward to. Jen, what's a couple of things that you're looking forward to this summer?
Well, I definitely want to get back out onto the reservation this year a lot more, because that's where we've had the best luck. And Jenna knows that's true, but hopefully we can get Tammy out there with us this year and really get into some of those areas. Because when we do the remote viewing, when I first started doing that, Jenna didn't believe in that. She didn't really understand what that was. And I knew that the things that I would see on my remote view were very, very accurate because I'd been using that with other things in the past. So when I see something on a remote view, I trust it because it's always been true. So I had seen, I'd remote viewed an area on the reservation where there was a report that came in from one of the elders on my reservation. He told me him and his wife came in and had breakfast with me one day. And they said, we hear you're looking for Bigfoot, and this is what's happened. Our grandchildren live with us. And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you know where I live? I said, yeah, I kind of know where you live. And he said, our grandkids were in the woods one day. They play in the woods back behind our house. I'm like, yeah. And he said they came home and they said they found this really cool fort and they were really excited about it. And so he's like, tell me more about this fort. And they hear that something had pulled 2 trees out of the ground, roots and all, and flipped them upside down, teepeeing them together with the roots in the air. And then you walk underneath that and you keep going a little bit further. And then he said, it looks kind of like a hogan structure. And I said, describe to me what that looks like. He said, it kind of looks like a wigwam, but it's more square. It's just sticks that are sticks and trees that were pretty much just weaved together. Where if it was a native built something, they usually tie things together with ribbons and twine. But this wasn't tied. It was only weaved. And he said it was very, very large. It had like a doorway, but no door. And he says you walk into it and it's kind of a rectangular shape and a large area that some things could lay down in. But at the back of it, there was a hole in the ground that went down to a tunnel/cave area that had been dug down inside of this. And when his grandchildren had found this, 9-year-old girls went down in it. They went down in it.
Wow, they're brave.
Yeah, they were excited that they found this fort.
Future She
Well,
Squatchers.
as a kid, yeah. Well, as a kid, you're kind of naive, and it's fun because you hear fairy tales and myths and legends and movies.
Right. So he went out there with them and had said, "Show me this, what you found." And so when he went out there and he saw this, he didn't go down inside of it. He didn't go down the hole, but he was terrified. He says, we really felt like we almost lost our granddaughters that day because something, even if whatever built it isn't there anymore, something else could have been down there. And so he told the girls never to go near anything like that again, that if they see something like that, they're supposed to stay far away from it and tell him about it, of course. And so that was the start of him teaching the girls to kind of be afraid in the forest, which was a very unusual thing. Native people typically teach children that you're surrounded by family in the forest. The trees are your family, the grass is your family, the plants are your family, the animals are your family. So everything is your brother, sister, grandma, grandpa. Everything is your relative.
Everything's connected. Yeah.
Yes. And so it was very unusual for him to start, telling them to be afraid of this. But he was afraid for them, of course. So we wanted to go up there and check this area out. I didn't know exactly where it was. I just knew it was kind of behind his house. So I started remote viewing this satellite imagery with Google Earth. I started remote viewing the area behind his place. And as I scooted further out and out, I did the whole forest up there. And I saw something that just popped out at me. I saw I'm just going to explain a little bit about this remote viewing. Controlled remote viewing was actually developed by the government through experiments. But it's a psychic thing. But it's just so scientific that they can actually measure it. But with controlled remote viewing, it's very controlled. You have a mediator or moderator that's asking you questions. You don't know what you're looking at. You're just supposed to describe it. And that's just too controlled for me for the purpose that I use it for. So I started doing what I call geographic remote viewing, where I'm looking at satellite imagery of locations and I'm asking questions. So in that, I ask questions, and what I see on the image of the satellite imagery changes in reaction to the question that I asked. So if there's something there, I would start seeing something there. And I use this to help with finding missing people. You know, I've used it for other things in the past, and it's always been very, very accurate. So when I started looking for Bigfoot in this woods on this geographic remote view, I started asking, is Bigfoot here? Can you please show me any Bigfoot here that are here? Is there any Bigfoot evidence that we could collect located here? And I saw all of a sudden a giant Bigfoot face staring at me, showing me like this whole territory. But it was like, it looks like an aggressive male that I kind of felt afraid of. And I didn't know how to feel about that. And then I asked, is there any Bigfoot evidence? Is there any Bigfoot evidence here that we could collect? And about 200 feet from that big face, I saw this whole area just lit up. And so I marked that space. And there, between the two, there was what looked to be a trail. And I thought, I wonder if that's a drivable trail. And so when we went out there, I went and stopped and I talked with this elder. There was a powwow going on, and he plays in a drum group at the powwow. So we went to the powwow to talk to him to get directions to the location where they had found, the grandkids had found this. And the directions they gave me were back going on these little tiny little trails that he himself had carved out of the woods to go collect the fallen wood for firewood. And so it was a less than a minimum maintenance trail, less than that.
Yeah.
So he had given me directions, and there's like, they weave in and out, and there's quite a few of them back there. And at one point he said, "Can you turn right there?" But he pointed left. And I said, "Am I turning right or am I turning left?" He's like, "You turn right there," and he pointed left. I'm like,
directions.
I'm like, I'm trying to like type this out on my phone, the directions that he's giving me, because he can't come out because he's at the powwow. So I'm like, he goes, "You turn right there."
Right,
He pointed left.
yeah.
I'm like, I'm confused. Is that a right turn or a left turn? He goes, "Yep, you turn right there," and he pointed left. I'm like, oh no. So I had directions, but I wasn't sure that they were right. And so we go back there, and we were, he knew the directions from walking it. But we were going to be driving it because it was 96 degrees that day. It was so hot. And for northern Minnesota people, that's really hot for us. And and one of the girls that was with us, Nikki, she wasn't feeling well that day. So we didn't want to be too far away from the car for long. We didn't want to walk miles back there without,
Right.
she wasn't feeling well. So we decided we'll drive it. So we used my truck. Nikki drove it, which, wow. The trees were like, those old car washes that had the mops that came up over your car, right?
Oh yeah.
It was kind of like that,
man.
except it was the trees.
Yeah.
So,
I've been there.
yeah. So that was kind of how it was with the trees in some of the locations. And so she's driving it, and we're like, okay, is this where we're supposed to turn? We got lost doing that. And we couldn't find the spot that he was telling us about. And so I said, okay, before we lose the whole day trying to follow the directions that I'm really not even sure about, let's just go into this other spot that I remote viewed. And I was excited to go check it out. So I still had self-service up there. So I was able to pull up the Google Maps and could see myself, the car, as the blue dot moving on these trails, right?
Right.
So I found the trail that went between those two places that I saw on the geographic remote view, and I'm instructing Nikki on how to get there. And we get there, and I'm like, okay, stop the car right here. And we're in the car, and I said, okay, girls, so like 100 feet to the right would be where I saw that Bigfoot that looks kind of scary. And about within 100 feet to the left would be where all that Bigfoot evidence, that whole area lit up. It was a huge area that lit up as Bigfoot evidence that we could collect. And so I'm like, okay, so let's get out of the car and go check it out.
Okay, but I gotta like come in here. First of all, you know, I'm
Yeah, go sure.
I'm somewhat new at this, right? But I didn't,
Mhm.
like Jen said, I really didn't believe in remote viewing. I really didn't. So when she said, let's get out of the car, girls, let's be ready. Okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's go. I was like, okay, you know, no big deal, because I didn't think it was going to actually work. But I'll let
Right,
Jen
right.
continue now.
So Nikki was going to stay in the car because, again, she wasn't feeling well and it was super hot that day. So she was going to stay in the car where the air was blowing and whatever. And so I get out of the car. I've got my stuff ready. I'm like, boom, let's go. And because my whole theory of this is find the spot, get out there, and surprise, we're here. You know, where most of the time people are
Right, you know, you're
meandering.
testing your theory and you're excited about it. No, I
Yeah.
completely understand where you come from. It's interesting. It's interesting. Continue.
Okay, so I'm ready to go, and Jenna's like da 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 da, gathering her stuff, and I'm like, Jenna, let's go. And
And she wasn't being sweet about it either. She was just like, let's go. I was just like, holy buckets. She's getting mean. She's not going to be
Kick
very
your
nice
butt,
team
like,
lead.
well, okay,
this is
so
how it's going to be. Yeah.
as I was waiting for her, I started looking into the woods towards the right where that aggressive male was, and I thought, well, maybe I could just see something if I stand here and look. And so I like took a step, and all of a sudden, here comes a rock down in front of me, and I'm like, it's a rock. And now it's daytime now, though. This hasn't happened to me in the daytime.
And
So
she knows what it means when rocks are thrown by now.
now I do, yeah.
Right.
So now I'm
Last time.
looking, where is it coming from? I was super excited, but then all of a sudden Nikki said from the car, hey, I think I see something over there in the woods. And she was looking left where the Bigfoot evidence was, or that we could collect. And I thought, oh, duh, stop looking towards the aggressive male, dumb ding dong. Go to where the Bigfoot evidence is that we can collect. Duh. So I went over to the other side of the car and started looking to the woods. I'm still waiting for Jenna. I'm like, come on, Jenna. But now I start seeing something moving back there. And now I start walking in there by myself. I'm like, Jenna, come on. Because I wanted to, like, surprise, catch something on video, right? If we wait too long,
Right, yeah.
they're going to scatter, right? So I'm like, Jenna, come on. And as I'm walking, I'm seeing something. And, you know, I'm like, oh, crap, I'm walking towards it by myself. I was kind of scared.
But, you know,
It just
really,
hit you like, wait a minute.
Right.
Yeah, but really, I mean, if you think about it, this seemed like to go on forever with Jen,
It
you
was
know,
like
saying, come
slow
on, come on, come on.
motion.
It was, but it really only lasted what? Very, very like a minute, 30 seconds to a minute where she was just on me to get in the woods. But it just felt like so long, especially, you know, she's usually so nice. And that day she just wasn't.
Cracking the whip.
I'm like, come on. And I'm like, I'm seeing something, come on. And she's like, da, 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 da. And I'm like, Jenna.
And I finally came.
She did. And so we get back there, and it was about 75 feet in from where we had parked. It was straight back. It was right where I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And we started seeing this. It looked like a tower. Something had taken trees out of the ground and put them together into like tall trees, teepeed together. And then there was foliage weaved in between them, like into levels. Somebody could crawl up there and like have a lookout. And I was just like, holy crap, look at that. And we were both in shock looking at this, and I've got the camera rolling, right? But we were so fascinated by looking at this, and there was this really dark area underneath it that was probably about 5.5 feet tall. And then above that was where the tower part started. And there was something that moved in there because all of a sudden all the foliage around that just snapped. And we weren't standing close enough to it to make anything move yet. And so I'm like, okay, something's in there. And I couldn't see into that darkness. I couldn't see into it. So I was like, okay, like I was trying to like not say, I don't know why I didn't want to say it out loud, like they can hear English or whatever, but but I was
maybe,
trying.
maybe they don't.
I don't know. But
Go ahead.
I was trying not to say out loud, Jenna, there's something in there. I was just trying to like stay back far enough away, not to like corner something and get it to come out at us, but yet still be able to check it out. And so I'm staring at it, but still keeping my distance. And there was things that were there that we didn't notice when we were there because we were so focused on looking at this tower that we weren't paying attention to this whole fence.
Well, we were in such awe of the little things that we didn't see the big picture.
Right. We didn't see everything there. And,
Right, and that happened.
Yeah. And so looking at the video afterwards, there were these sticks that were like poked into the ground. And then we're talking 8 to 10 feet tall sticks poked into the ground and weaved together to create this like fence. But we didn't realize that was the case. We were moving the stuff to get back there. But, go back on the video, we can see that this was actually very much a fence.
Very elaborate then.
Yes.
Wow, that's very interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of a tower type of structure being made.
And you should check out the video.
Very
It's really
interesting.
cool.
When we got around it, when we finally got past
I have seen some, but
when we got around
I've seen some of your videos. Yeah.
When we got around it to the side, then we started to see the back end of the structure. The end of it was like, if you can imagine an aisle at Walmart where the end cap has the products on the end, that was like the tower. Okay. And then behind that, it got shorter, but it was long. And it was one of these long, and it was like this Hogan structure that the native elder had told me about. It's trees that were stacked and weaved together. It even had like a roof area that, that could have protected them from rain. And it was this whole structure that was on the back end of it. And it was long and it was large. And Jenna, of course, here's me all, I think there's something in that tower part, because it was so dark in there, you couldn't see anything inside of it. And we get around to the side of it while we're looking at the structure that's attached to it, but behind it. And Jenna's like, do you want me to go in there? And I'm like, what?
Oh, I was so gung ho. It was like, it's a fort. Because when I was little, I grew up in the woods too. Yeah, well, heck yeah. I wanted to get inside, see what was going on, see if it was human.
Well, yeah, let me stop you there. You're right. We all grow up in the woods, at least most of us, and you don't expect these things to be out there. Not only Bigfoot, but other cryptids. You don't expect anything to be out there. And when you come across these things, it takes you by surprise. You're totally off guard, and I think a lot of people get into some dangerous situations because they're not prepared and they don't realize exactly what's out there, or how to tell the signs, or the vocalizations too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we go out, we definitely make sure to have anything we need, whistles, bells. Not literally bells, but we have everything we need.
No weapons. We don't have weapons.
You guys don't take guns, right?
No.
Right. Now, do you feel like, obviously, I guess you with your remote viewing and all of your guys' abilities, I guess you feel stuff, and they say that women have more access to these abilities, and the longer the hair, sometimes I guess is supposed to help too. I hear that you feel. I think that it probably does help you. Whether it's intuition or whatever it is, I think we all have these abilities, and some better than others, but we can all work on it.
Definitely.
So I find it kind of interesting.
It is definitely a native belief that the longer your hair is, the more powerful you are. And they always said that there's power in your hair. But even in like the Nazi times, the Führer Hitler had these women that had super long hair that were giving him psychic information, and they also believed that their hair was like
I think it was the Brill Society, actually.
Yep. That the longer their hair, the more sensitive they were, like antenna, picking things up. So,
yeah.
And I do have super long hair.
I was just going to say, isn't it ironic that we all have this long hair, each one of us?
Well, I'm trying to get mine. I don't my shoulder height. I
You're
used to
bringing
have
sexy
longer
back.
hair.
You are
No, I
bringing
used to have
sexy
hair
back.
halfway down my back in high school. And,
Really?
I plan to grow it out. Oh yeah, I plan to grow it out. I think it helps Sasquatching. I used to have a lot of activity back then, and I think the beard helps too.
I was
Nice.
just going to ask you
Different
about the
techniques,
beard.
respectful. Yes, I'm trying to emulate maybe a Squatch, and I think it helps. I don't think it doesn't. It's not gonna make them scared. If anything, when I had my first encounter, I made a very low whoop, and I feel like either it didn't recognize me, I might have caught off guard, or it was very curious. It basically came right up to me in the middle of the night, and I put, when it made a defensive posture, nothing happened. So I know that these creatures are very intelligent and very curious, and I think the more interesting techniques that you use out there, it's going to help you. So I'm trying to basically do everything I can to help. So it's kind of why the beard's here. I'm going to grow my hair long, and I'm branching out. Remote viewing is very interesting. I might have you guys work on a few pictures for me or something on the map.
So
Because,
where are you located?
what's it going to hurt? I'm in Michigan.
Michigan.
Lower Michigan.
Gotcha.
I'll give you details off air. But here in Lower Michigan, there's a lot of houses, and we don't have the wilderness is more the more north you go. So, but we have a lot of encounters, and a lot of these Sasquatches are right next to people, and they're right next to people when they're in the woods. They're observing this all the time. Do you guys find any of those things maybe around in more populated areas in your state, or is it just in the remote parts?
Yes, actually, this last fall, right before winter, I started getting reports from somebody that there was some Bigfoot activity right outside of Moorhead, like right on the city, in Moorhead, Minnesota, where I live. And I had not even considered going squatching here before because, we're pretty much surrounded by farmland. It's city. So I'm like, there's not even really woods for like 40 miles. So, but there is woods around the river. So, and then I started thinking about it. Well, if they're, I don't think that they all migrate. But I do think that maybe some of them do leave, but they don't all leave because I still get reports from people in the wintertime that they've seen Bigfoot. But maybe some of them do leave. And if they do go south, then they have to travel along the rivers. They have to, because that's where their cover would be. And the animals do it. The animals travel along the rivers where they have the woods cover. So of course it would make sense then. So I was like, So, that's one of the things, the places, this whole COVID-19 has really thrown us off. There's so many things that we want to be doing right now, but we can't.
Same here. I think, it's like a lot of people had a lot of stuff planned for these 2 months. And some researchers, it's like the month of March and April, like that's when this Bigfoot's going to be in this area, this time of year. And they plan their whole year around it. And that's just went out the door. For some cases, you can still get out there, but you're limited.
We were supposed to be in Washington next week for the whole week, Washington State. We were going to go to the Yakima Reservation, and we were supposed to be, this was we're looking forward to it for all winter, and now we can't go, but it's been postponed to October. So we're still going to go. We just have to wait longer.
That's awesome.
And I don't like waiting, but okay.
Yeah, she really doesn't like waiting.
Maybe it'll be better. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, for sure.
For
sure. But, now that I have Jenna and Tammy, I think that the more woods time we get into our own state, the better off we're going to be. Last year we traveled so much, we didn't get a lot of woods time in our own state. We would go to an event, we'd do speaking, and then we'd go bigfooting in that location. Yeah, so we weren't home very much enough to do a whole lot of that. So this summer I'm really hoping that if we ever get to be together again, we can go out squatching in Minnesota a lot more this summer. It's what my goal was before all this happened.
Yes,
definitely.
It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, but you know what? Thank goodness everybody's following the stay at home, being part of the solution instead of the problem. I mean, I think, people from all over are really taking this serious, and it's about time. I don't think anybody should react. We should be making our choices based on fact, not fear. And I think everybody's doing a great job of that. I think they're finally done hoarding over this COVID-19, hopefully.
There was no toilet paper the other day at the store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh no! Here
I'm running a little bit low.
Well, the leaves are coming back, so there's plenty of toilet paper around.
That's true, but ow.
Last resort.
Yeah.
Gotta do what you gotta do, right? But
do what you gotta do.
I'm sure that's what Bigfoot does, right? They
That
do
or
something.
bunnies.
That's so gross.
So,
spotted bunnies.
what do you guys think they are? Are they more ape, or are they more tribal? More like, say, a Native American elder brother?
We have differing opinions. So we come together in peace and harmony with our differing opinions.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
See, I've got a quick question. I noticed that there's some people that are making some comments. Are you, let's see, Facebook?
They're you have to allow StreamYard to have access to your profile picture to have it.
Okay.
And that's why I haven't been shared. But I think that's my friend Chad, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, Chad, I'm sorry, I don't know you. I can't go squatching with you, but that sounds fun. Squatching is awesome. And Tammy, did you see the comment about kissing a fur coat?
Kissing a what?
Yes, what the Facebook user said. Did I just see Tammy kissing a fur coat? I think you had your cat.
Oh, no, that's my little puppy.
Oh.
Every once in a while, she demands my attention.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I mean,
Tammy,
she does have a fur coat.
Tammy would not kiss her cat. I know she wouldn't kiss her cat.
No, I'm allergic to cats, so I don't kiss any cats.
Oh, yeah.
But no, go kiss my puppy dog.
Oh, and I've gotten to see your puppy dog, sweet as pie. So sorry,
She's
we kind of
sweet.
went
That's
off.
why her name's Sugar.
Oh,
You guys
it's
are fun. It's it's all good. We're live. We're go with the flow.
So we did have an experience in Nebraska when we were coming back from an event that we did in Kansas City. We stopped at a place called Indian Caves National Park in Nebraska. And Jenna and I had stopped there before, and we really wanted to camp there because we felt like something was going on there. Hi, Sugar. There's Tammy's dog, Sugar.
Oh,
so
very cute.
Yeah. So we couldn't do it the first time. So when we went back the next year, of course, we had Tammy with us, and we planned to camp then at this national park. And because I wanted to be there after dark. And the only way that you could be in the park after dark was if you were camping there. So we went to this event the next year, and on our way back, we stopped in the Indian Caves National Park to camp there. And there had been just a horrible few days of downpouring rain. So everything was wet and muddy, and nobody else was there. We were pretty much camping all alone. It was awesome. And when the Indian caves they built stairs that walk up to them. And when we drove over to the location from our campsite, and it was so quiet. There was not a sound. You could just hear the river going, but there wasn't any other sounds. And as soon as the girls started walking up the stairs to get up towards the Indian caves, all of a sudden there was noise. I'll let Tammy tell that story.
All right.
Okay. Well, yeah, it was really, really quiet over there. There's stairs that go up to the rock formations and the caves and everything. And as we were walking, it wasn't windy or anything. And all of a sudden, something kept hitting the ground in front of us as we were walking. And they were acorns, but they were green acorns. And green acorns don't just fall off of a tree. And so, every few steps that we would take, these acorns were hitting the ground at an angle right in front of our feet. And so, I I didn't see where it came from, but I'm assuming there's no squirrels sitting up in the trees at night bombarding people with acorns. But
That just doesn't happen. That like they say.
Yeah, it was a good experience. It was fun.
Well, and not only that, Tammy, remember when we were watching them coming down? These things were not falling straight down. These were actually curved. I mean, they were literally coming down at an angle, like curving down. So when they threw them, it would look like this.
Right.
It was coming down.
Great like artillery fire.
Great sound effect.
Yeah, exactly. So
yes, got it.
Did you guys feel anything at that moment? Like what was the atmosphere?
I actually didn't feel too much over there. I didn't feel it.
It didn't feel like we weren't supposed to be there, like something was trying to get us to leave. It didn't feel like that. It was just kind of like matter of fact, and here I see you, and hey, I see you. What are you doing? I see you, but we just kept going up to the cave anyway.
Yeah, it was really, really neat though. That was really a fun time, and I can't wait until as soon as we get to do it again.
And I didn't.
Yeah, but Jen needs to tell a story about the big cat.
I didn't go up the stairs that night. The spiders up there were horrifying to me. I'm just saying, the spiders.
They were.
I know how you feel.
I just couldn't bring myself to go up that night. They were everywhere.
Wow.
The spiders were everywhere.
What? Now, Jen, what about the noise that we heard when we went back to camp? We need to tell that story.
We were squatching along the way back to the camp, and we'd stop and we'd get out and we'd do stuff, and so there was one location where we had done that, and we decided, okay, we're done for the night. We closed, we shut everything off, and we're just sitting there on top of this park picnic bench. And we're just sitting there listening to the night and just hanging out. And all of a sudden we hear this big roar. And we're like, what was that? And then we hear it again. Roar! And I'm like, okay, that's a big cat. Get to the car. And they took off running.
Oh, jeez. That's the worst thing you're supposed to do is run. Especially from a cat.
No,
she's like, get to the car now. And so we're like, okay. We're running back to the car. And she's like, you left me. And we're like, you told us to run.
I know, right? And now she's like, you guys left me on all the radio shows we do. We're like, no, we didn't. That's a lie. Live.
Well, now she's prepared next time. I'm sure she'll have an extra head start.
No, the thing is,
until after she's there.
They're always really
was that in Minnesota that happened?
That was Nebraska.
Nebraska still. Okay, so what do you think it was? A cougar? Or do you think it was a bobcat? Or what'd you feel?
I don't.
Didn't we look it up and there was mountain lions in that area?
There had been one sighted in that area that year, but there was only one sighting. And then there was a couple of animals that we thought it might be, one of which was a cat. But we never got down to the dirty.
We didn't hang around long enough to find out for sure.
Right, and especially if you hear that's loud, it scares you, it shocks you, and I think you feel it instinctively too, because it's an animal, it's making its call, and you pick up on that. Subconscious.
And the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Yep, that was it for me. I'm like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Crazy thing is,
exactly.
The first time we heard it, it was like we all looked at each other like, okay, what was that? What do we need to do? Let's make a good choice here. And so that's when we both Tammy and I think both looked at Jen like give us, what do you want us to do? And that's what she told us to do. Go to the car.
Yes.
I mean, you guys left me.
Oh, that's so funny.
I love you guys.
I think the She Squatchers idea is perfect. And I think it is going to work for you guys. And it already has. And I think it will continue to.
Oh, so sorry. I hope I'm not lagging here because I'm afraid I'm talking over people. But I just did want to say one other thing.
No, you're fine.
We're not the only all-female Bigfoot team out there. So we definitely don't want that to be out there. But we definitely want other women to get out and do what they want to do and strive to look for that truth, whatever it is. Don't, Sorry, I'll be quiet now.
There's not that many women in the the community as much as men. Obviously, I think it's more of a manly subject, but I think women do have the edge, like you guys are showing, and why not? It just makes sense. We have proof of it with the great apes. So.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And then with your other guys' techniques that you guys are using, your abilities, I think it's very interesting. And if it continues to prove and show evidence, I think people need to take good attention to it, because we have the more scientific, skeptical side, and we have the woo all the way to the woo side, and everything in between. And I think if things are producing evidence, we need to categorize it, at least a reference, because we don't know what's out there. We don't know what's going on, what they are, and what else lurks in the woods. So I think it's all interesting.
Where do you land on the
So,
scale?
Well, I've had experiences with a little bit of everything. So I think Bigfoot is more of Native American elder brother. Maybe they have natural abilities that they develop in nature, not paranormal, but just what they have. But I don't know. I've never experienced any mind speak or anything like that. I've had ghost encounters, seen UFOs. I've experienced a creature that resembled a goblin-like creature, Gollum from the Lord of the Rings. Basically, it was basically it was very tall and skinny, humanoid-looking thing. I called it the Stick Man because its arms were so long and skinny that if I went up there to fight it, I probably could break its arms like a twig.
Where did you see this? Just curious.
This was me and my friend were going squatching. This was after my first Bigfoot encounter. But basically, we went out behind my barn, the backwoods. We were just starting. We were going to go in the cow pasture and go into some different woods. And I had noticed there was a dead tree. If you kitty corner from the fence post to the pen. So we crossed over the wire and we're walking, and I glanced over there and I had seen basically the top was chopped off, and I seen like a head, and it kind of popped down, and I kept looking over there, and I seen it popped out of the side, tree peeking almost. And I bumped my friend, and we stood there and looked at it, and it kept tree peeking, revealing itself more and more, and I could see that it was humanoid. It was naked. It was very skinny. It was, I would say, about 7 foot tall. It tree peeked up the third time, and it really came out, and you could see its arms are very long, down past his knees. And so my friend is freaking out. He's scared. He's freaking out. He's like, we gotta go inside. We gotta go inside. The moon was out, but I don't think it was a full moon, and we could see it. And it was it looked yellowish. Its eyes kind of were yellowish, and I would say it was bald. It didn't have no hair. And, we went inside. We told my dad. My dad's very old school, and so he's drinking a beer. He goes out there. He says, "Yeah, I'll check at it, whatever." He goes out there and checks and comes in and says, "Hey, nothing out there. Go upstairs, go to bed. Go upstairs, do something else." So whatever. 2 years ago, my dad says, "Hey, you remember that stick man you seen?" I'm like, yeah, because I had always kept going on affirming that thing was out there. He said he told me the real story, and the real story was he went out there and went to the fence post, and he was looking at the tree, and first he didn't notice anything, and then he said he seen the creature come out, and he went back in. He's like, what the F is that? And then he goes, does it again, and my dad's thinking he's like, he described it as a tall gray alien, I guess. It's a humanoid type thing. He said he didn't feel any type of sensation. He wasn't scared, nothing like that. And about the third time it came out, and he said he seen its legs, and it was very tall and skinny. He turned around and he came inside, but he was thinking of grabbing the shotgun and going back out there, because we're out in the country, and the person's trespassing or whatever it is, right? He had just moved there. And the reason why he told us that he didn't see anything is my mom had actually passed away. We had moved to a new house, and he worked until dinner time. So he didn't want me and my brother home from school freaking out that not only is there Bigfoot out in the woods, but there's other creatures. So he had lied and he had made up the story, but he did see something. So
And
there
how
are
old
other
were-
creatures out in these woods.
How old were you when that happened?
I would say I was 14, 15. I have to go. I think I was 15, and it was the summertime, and it was almost a full moon out. So
And
there
so
are
it was
things
at
out there.
Yeah. Boy.
Yeah, it was at night.
Do you
I was
feel-
going out at night by myself all the time, and my buddy was with me that time.
Well, do you still get, I mean, do you still have access to the land?
No, it was private land.
Oh, so today you do not have
I could
access.
technically, I could ask the landowner still. We had a pretty good standing at least, and who knows? Maybe if I start inquiring, they might actually have encounters. So it's very interesting. And I had paranormal stuff happen in that house too, and we had lightning that struck this tree in the front yard all the time. And lightning struck, and there was a blue orb that came in the house, and I seen it from the top of the stairs, and it blew out the computer system and everything that night. It was a very weird spot. I used to think there's a lot of Native American things there because I found a big rock, and it was bowl shaped. It was very carved and smooth and bowl shaped, and it was next to the tree that used to get struck by lightning. So.
Wow. So you have definitely a history in the paranormal and the exciting.
A little bit of everything. I steer clear of the ghosts and stuff because it's just too hard to distinguish good and bad, and you don't want to have that messing with your life. So
Definitely, you can easily be followed.
yeah, and deceived, and you can go down the rabbit hole, I think.
Oh, it's so easy to get sucked down the rabbit hole. It really is. For me, I say you either know that they're there or you don't. Period.
Right.
It's hard to try to find spirit if you're not sure of their existence. Does that sound, I don't know, maybe it just sounds silly, but
Right. There's a lot of people who I think are not naive or they just don't realize of what's really happening in the world, whether it's in the woods or ghosts in your home or things in the sky or sea serpents and lake monsters. I think there's creatures that are still living in the swamps that, because we don't go in the swamps or underneath the water, we don't find these creatures.
oh, there's so much we haven't found. Oh my goodness.
So I think
so
North
much.
America, especially since the white man has not been here as long, there's a ton of things out here left to be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we've reached our hour. I appreciate all of you coming on and sharing your guys' stories. It's been fun. I'll have to get you guys on. Hopefully, maybe in a couple months after you guys get some more things going on, and hopefully you guys get some
For
evidence.
sure.
I think you guys are going to get some stuff.
Hope so.
So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Where can
Yes,
we
thanks for
real quick?
having
Where can
fun.
they find you stuff? Yeah, where can we find your stuff? She Squatchers YouTube, Facebook groups, or anything you want to share?
Yes, you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube at She Squatchers Official. Please subscribe to our channel. We're in a YouTube subscriber race with another YouTuber, so we want to win
Awesome.
that. So we need everybody to come subscribe to our channel so we win. And
Exactly. There you go.
And Facebook is where we're going to post our most up-to-date information, so you can check that there. We're also at shesquatchers.com. So you can, and please
Awesome.
email me at shesquatchers@yahoo.com. And that if you have anything you'd like to share with us, or if you'd like to come on our show, because we have a show too. We're on the radio on the ParaX radio network every Wednesday night live, and then we upload our video to YouTube. Yeah.
Anytime you guys want me there, I'll be there.
Awesome.
So, thank you guys again. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. So.
Thank you so much.
You. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. And everyone have a good night. Take it easy and stay inside.
Bye.
Good night.